Hey, yo, welcome back to Absolute Intense Wrestling's The Card is Going to Change. My name is Ronald Two Legs, and as always, I am joined by the owner of Absolute Intense Wrestling, Mr. John Thorne. What's up, Thorne?
Greetings. I am unfortunately still the owner of AIW. I did not receive a offer from TKO.
Not that partnership, it didn't include AIW with the AAA announcement?
No, they just bought AAA, so they got to start working their way through the alphabet to get to A, I, and the W.
It's going to take a while, yeah.
It's a lot of combos, but hopefully we make it.
Well, the week is upon us. One of my favorite shows. I'm happy to be here to report. It is Gauntlet for the Gold week. Are you excited about this week's upcoming show, John?
Am I excited?
Yeah. Gauntlet's always fun, you know?
Mixed emotions, right?
Mixed emotions,
you know, per usual.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like I hope people aren't, you know, in like wrestling hangover mode, because WrestleMania weekend just creates so much content. It is impossible to see it all and experience it all. So I hope people are still ready for more wrestling content this Saturday in Akron, Ohio, because trust me, I watched a lot of stuff over the weekend and it's a lot for me to consume. I can't even, I don't even really want to watch half of it, so I can't even imagine what it's like for the people that want to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be overwhelming. I think from what I saw, there were like 180 plus wrestling related events that went on in the Las Vegas area over the course of a week. That is a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
That is a lot of content. That is a lot of things to consume. So hopefully we don't fall into that wrestling hangover type of scenario. It was really hard to try to figure out where to land the show on the calendar. With knowing last year WrestleMania was going to be in Las Vegas, it was going to be later than usual. So it was really, toss up. It's like, do you want to go before WrestleMania weekend? Do you want to go after WrestleMania weekend? I think it was kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, as far as, trying to get those traveling types that are traveling out to Vegas to try to get them to, still want to come to AIW when either before or after the trip. So it was really difficult to schedule this. So we're going to see how it goes with going the week after WrestleMania. So again, a little mixed emotions, just because I understand it's, I don't think anybody could anticipate the amount of wrestling content that was descending upon Las Vegas over the last week. But hopefully people are still ready for Gauntlet for the Gold this Saturday in Akron.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that with how big WrestleMania weekend is anymore these days, and with how many kind of non-wrestling fans, regular people they continue to draw in, you almost wonder how many people out there this past weekend watched some form of WrestleMania that's not really a wrestling fan and then ended up liking it. Was like, oh yeah, this is a good time. Like, I enjoyed watching this, and then they see, maybe this week you'd like to see maybe a run on some tickets of some newer fans. Like, hey, I'd enjoyed WrestleMania. Let's go check out what the indie stuff is about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope, right? Like, it's like that, that theory, the rising tide raises all ships or whatever. I mean, WWE, you could be as critical about it as you want. Like, it is really just taken over mainstream pop culture, and like, there's just so much normalcy to liking wrestling again. It's kind of weird. Like, yeah. I mean, today, like, I was at work and a guy was like, hey, I heard you're a big wrestling guy, and wanted to like like didn't was not understanding like what the the word around work is as to my wrestling involvement. It just came up to me like I'm like this big fan, and like because he is now a big fan, and
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, stuff like that.
It was like very like it actually happened to me 2 times at work today, which is just
God. Were you dreading that, like, hating that, or what? I know you're not a big fan of that at work.
A nightmare, but it's just because, like, it just it seems like so socially acceptable to be a wrestling fan again. So, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know how cracked open the door is as far as, like, WWE wanting to turn people on to the indies and so on and so on and so on, but it definitely seems like there is a really large popularity when it comes to WWE, and it's just like it's so weird because we're like in the bubble, and like so many people like within the bubble are like damn corporate wrestling, and you know what I mean. And it's just like it's bizarre to just see like people that know nothing, they don't know anything about anything other than like they thought it was cool to watch WrestleMania this weekend.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't know any of the inner workings, or like they didn't know that there were other events going on, all week in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Like they just knew WrestleMania, and it's just like, it's a weird dynamic, but it seems like they are just, I guess, opening people up to wrestling, which, like you were saying, hopefully there is this like trickle down effect, so to speak, this weekend in Akron.
Yeah. And I mean, we were talking about too, like you're saying, just this resurgence of wrestling and like how popular it is again. I mean, you see wrestling, WWE specifically, is like branded in everything. Like there's like mobile video game, Clash of the Clans has like a, WWE version. That game Fortnite, you can be wrestling skins. Like there's so many pop culture things now where you see wrestling where you didn't for many years. They didn't have these partners and sponsorships and stuff like that. And now it just seems like WWE is literally everywhere.
Yeah, it's like overwhelming, like how just in the norm it all is, and like how it's just, it's just infiltrated every aspect of life. It seems, and it's just like, I don't know anything about Travis Scott. Like that's that's not for me. But obviously it's for somebody. You know what I mean? It's like it's opening up a whole different world of potential customers for wrestling. But I'm in the same boat. I was like, this is silly. Who is this guy? But I mean, they're doing it for a reason, and they're making a lot of money. We are not making a lot of money, so maybe we need to find our version of Travis Scott.
Kaplan rapping? Could you imagine if Kaplan was a rapper?
Oh yeah, let's get Kaplan a deal.
The brawler rhymer, dude. I could see him doing it. I just feel like Kaplan could be good at it. Whatever he does, he's good at. You know what I mean?
But yeah, it's just I'm just hoping that we get a little bit of that WrestleMania momentum, and it's not WrestleMania hangover. I don't want to see anything wrestling for the next month or two.
Yeah,
it could go one or two ways.
Yeah.
Like our like ringside seating is selling pretty decent for Gauntlet. We ended up adding a 4th row, but GA there's not a lot of GA sold, so I mean it's still not looking super successful as of this recording, but again, hopefully we're going to see that big run as we get closer to Saturday, and see what we can put together.
I do still think that the Tadmore is in that category of how we've talked about with venues, where what we're trying to do at AIW is kind of create this FOMO scenario where you want to buy these tickets early because we have a finite number of them in some of these smaller places, and what we're trying to do with that. The Tadmore, I think people still think, is definitely one where, especially with GA, there is a wide number of GA seats, you know what I mean? And just with that, there's a good, with the the benches, the bleacher seating and all that stuff. GA is one that I feel like people feel like maybe they can wait until week of. Just in past scenarios, I feel like that's the Tadmore has been kind of traditionally like that.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, I'm in agreement with that. We are going to increase the price of GA the day of by $5. Like any ticket that is left on Saturday. So like if there's fourth rows available, whatever, like everything is going to increase by $5 for a day of surcharge. Just trying to find different ways to, we're offering them cheaper across the board in advance now, but if you don't take advantage of it, it's going up to that normal. Even front row is cheaper now at the Tadmore than most of the other venues. Mm-hmm. We made adjustments to try to be competitive in the market and get those crowds back up. So just be aware if you're like I'm going to buy it on Saturday, it's going to be 20. It's not going to be 15.
Yeah, and the Tadmore is one of those venues that I just love for the many reasons. Free parking, giant free parking lot. We're getting warmer weather now. It's Gauntlet, so I would not be shocked if there's fans out in the parking lot early tailgating. Just hanging out in the warm weather out in the free parking lot. Plenty of parking out there. They have concessions there, full bar there. They have a full bar where they stream the show. So if you got to go run and grab a drink, you're not going to miss what's going on. You can still watch the stream while you're there. The Tadmore has some of those, comfort classics that people have really been upset that have gone away in modern professional indie wrestling because of some of these venues that we've had to move to and just, venue's going to venue. The Tadmore is one that still has some of those, those old school comfort, free parking, like we said, concessions, get a hot dog and all that, that those type of things, so you want to take advantage of that. Gauntlet, especially that should be, first and foremost, it's the Gauntlet. It's one of my favorite shows of all year. You get that Rumble match. Anything can happen. That to
Rumble
me alone.
Rumble style match.
Rumble style match. Yeah. The Royale style,
Rumble Royale
30-man.
style.
30 performer Royale style match. You only get that once a year in AIW. We don't do any of these, battle royale matches and stuff like that. It doesn't ever really happen in AIW, but once a year. So, including keeping going, we got a special meet and greet who you just saw on WrestleMania. If you're watching WrestleMania, we just recently saw Haku make an appearance on WrestleMania. We'll be having a special meet and greet with AIW legend Haku.
WWE legend, hopefully soon to be AIW legend.
Excuse me, yeah. My brain keeps going faster than my mouth.
It's very possible
legend.
He could be an AIW legend after Saturday.
Yeah, right. And I mean, a match with Filthy Tom, and it's not even just a meet and greet. We got him coming in. He's going to be having a match with Filthy Tom Lawler, something that, a lot of people have been talking about for quite some time. Very exciting match. This is going to be, like I said, that's worth the ticket price alone. For a while, those were just the only two matches we had announced, and I said that those two right there should sell the card out.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I think it's a really strong card altogether. It's, we wanted to provide that value for everybody, especially with the free parking, with, am I going to drive from Cleveland or not? We wanted to really up and make the show valuable. Not only are you getting, the Gauntlet, but it is a very strong undercard, in my opinion. We've done a lot more for this one than maybe recent Gauntlets because the Gauntlet, typically is the main focus of the night.
Yeah.
So, really took time with putting together a really, really strong undercard. I'm hopeful that it's going to work out. Obviously, people have seen, the schedule and, we are moving forward. I don't know if we discussed that last week or not, but, we are moving forward, but there are going to be less shows. It's going to be spread out. It's going to be like a couple in Cleveland, a couple in Akron, a couple in Youngstown. We're not doing like the traditional 6 and 6 or what have you, and we're trying to keep it all a little spread out. So you're not going to get as many at the Tadmore anymore. You're not going to. We're going to kind of split those with Youngstown now, and try to keep those markets fresh with 2-3 year each instead of 6 at each. So in fact, we initially had October booked in Akron, and we decided that we were going to take it off the books and move it to Youngstown. So, it'll be 3 in Youngstown for the year 2025, and, only 3 more left in Akron for the rest of the year. So trying to spread it out to try to keep the momentum up in all the markets, because we realize, hey, there's probably people that are only going to attend in Youngstown. There's probably people that only attend in Akron, and there's probably people that only attend in Cleveland. And then there's people that are going to try to hit everything. So we want to kind of spread it out, make it realistic to where there's lead time, promotional time, all that stuff. I mean, we really wanted to, when I made the decision, and anybody that wants to hear more about the decision, I did do like a 40-plus minute just talk with no kind of pot. It was just like I turned the microphone on and I just kind of talked about everything that's been going on. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to hop on Patreon, you can listen to that. But I go into in depth about everything that has gone on in the last year, which, had things kind of, are we staying or are we going, as far as is AIW going to close up or not? But, really want to take time and, not get in over our heads, and make sure we have enough lead time in these markets and spread it out and try to make it to where everything remains sustainable and successful. So, that's kind of the approach we're looking at going forward. Again, we're going to have Gauntlet Saturday. We're going to be back there in June. And then we are not back in Akron until December to close out the year. So there's going to be a big gap coming up in the Akron market. So if you're a person that only attends in Akron, this is kind of your warning. You're going to get the Saturday, you're going to get June, and then we're not back until December. So just trying to keep things a little spread out and hopefully able to build in these markets instead of see the decline that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great card to do it too. Getting back into the show, like you said, the undercard and pretty much just everything aside from the Gauntlet match. We've been keeping it pretty close to our AIW roster that we have, our homegrown guys. But there's a match on the card that I think could headline any AIW show in almost shades of like a JT Lightning match. We got Dex Royal taking on Slim J. That's going to be a curtain sellout for sure. I know everyone in the back's going to be excited to see that one. I mean, you talk about the card and how great it is. That's, we don't do too many of these, flying versus flying type stuff. And this one, this match, I'm very excited for.
Yeah, I mean, Slim J, I think, impressed everybody at JLit. As much as we talked about, JLit kind of, which, that's something that's the only thing that's currently not on the schedule. We're still trying to figure out what and where and how to do that. Mm-hmm. Especially with kind of spacing out the shrine and things like that. We are looking to try to do it in the Cleveland area. But, last year, I think Slim J really impressed everybody in the one-day condensed JLit format. He had some great showings in on both events that we did, and I think he was somebody that obviously I thought could add a lot of flavor to AIW lineups, in the right scenario. Tried to book him a few times and he was not available. And then he had hit me up and let me know what his availability was, and I offered him this date, and going back and forth thinking of what is going to be the most like potential for holy shit matches, and Dex Royal, he balls out every time. So
yeah,
it's to me that was first on the docket for Slim J is to get him in there with Dex Royal and just let him go and let those guys just go crazy.
Yeah, he was one, I championed for him big time after the J-Lit weekend. I was like, this guy's great. We definitely got to get him back. And we had, he had some trouble with the dates. He wasn't ever really able to work, some Fridays or whatever. And that's mostly when we run. So we had a little bit of trouble there. And I was kind of bummed out. But then you told me he was able to switch some stuff and he'd be coming back. And then when you told me this was the match, I said, man, what a way to bring it back. Really, like you said, I think he turned a lot of heads in the last year in the J-Lit. And this is a match that, both of them are just huge moment makers. You could put them in there with anyone and they're going to do something you're going to watch that match and be like, holy shit, what was that? We talked before about, Slim J, and this guy comes up with all, My Move Monday, and the guy, just how many things he's innovated in wrestling. To see both of these two just get in there and go crazy is going to be worth the price alone.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited about the just the potential of what these guys can come up with together. They're both super innovative. So I think this one is going to be a can't miss live situation.
Kind of going into, to see what they come up with. Another match on the card that I'm extremely excited for, just to see what they come up with, and just the wrestling IQ of it. We have To Infinity and Beyond taking on a little mishmash of a tag team here. We got the Cosmic Cowboys, Paul London and Shelby Wilder. You talk about Paul London and Cheech and Colin, and, I know Shelby's newer in this business, but those three, man, how much wrestling they've even forgotten, let alone how much they know. I cannot wait to see what these guys put together for a match.
Yeah, I this is just one of those things where I just came into my head and it made me laugh. The Cosmic Cowboys, subconsciously it was probably planted in there from that scramble match where Shelby and Paul did some things together, and Paul was really having a lot of fun with it, and I just thought. This makes perfect sense. Paul, I pitched Paul the idea, and he was just like, A, he loved it, and B, he was just like so happy to come back to AIW. He literally just texted me right before we started recording, and he just said, "You made my month with this booking, brother. Seriously, I need it after Mania week." LOL. He's just he's very excited about it. He's very excited to come back to AIW. I think he likes the freedom that we give him, and allow him to get out there and create. Shelby obviously is the least experienced, but this is one of those kind of benefits of when you come through the AIW Academy. Sometimes you will get this opportunity to be surrounded by three absolute fucking legends of independent wrestling, with so much knowledge for you to absorb. This is a crash course in everything for Shelby Wilder this Saturday.
I think it's a testament too of just, because sometimes people could, the scramble, man, I'm just on a scramble. What, people, what are you doing today? Oh, I'm just on some scramble. AIW is constantly putting together these scramble matches with just, you never know who's going to be in them, and it's preparing you for stuff like this. You never know who you're going to be in there with and what kind of chemistry you could spark or blah blah blah. Like you said, this match could have been just subconsciously stuck in your head from that scramble match, and it all goes to show that no matter what you're,
I 100% think it was, and you just never know what's going to come out of,
right.
Like you said, something like a scramble or something,
Yep.
Just sometimes some just natural chemistry or whatever you want to call it, springs out of those things. And, sometimes it's like, oh, let's now have those two do singles. Now, you know, we've developed a tag team out of one. Like, there's so many different scenarios that if you take being in the scramble seriously instead of going like, oh, I'm just in the scramble, you know,
right.
Like, there's so much that can happen.
Exactly. Yeah, that was kind of my point. Is it's like, you know, sometimes, like I said, sometimes I feel like the scramble or whatever could be looked lesser than, but AIW is just constantly putting together just these wild scramble matches that anything can happen and you never know what's going to come of it. And yeah, if it's pretty much the, you know, wrestling in a nutshell. If you put into it what you want out of it, things are going to happen for you. And the Cosmic Cowboys is certainly a product of that, and I am very excited. Anything to get Paul back in here. You know, you talked about Cheech and Colin and, you know, how smart those guys are, the IQ of those guys. Absolutely, some of the nicest guys as well. But that could be said for Paul. You know, Paul, man, what a guy. We got to go get some more barbecue again this time. Just let him just rant for hours. That's just listening to him talk. He just comes up with stuff. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just funny. I was just driving home on a Friday night, and like Cosmic Cactuses came into my brain, and that was it. It was over. It was over for Shelby Wilder at that point.
That's great. Going farther in the card, you know, it's talking about a few matches that, you know, were just kind of there out of nowhere, no real story to them, but going to be great in anyways. This match, you know, definitely has some build to it, and these two have been going at each other's throat for quite a while. We mentioned this on the last podcast. It had been announced, but we got Derek Dillinger with Katie Arquette taking on Big Sam Holloway.
In a steel cage.
In a steel cage. I was just going to say, this one's going to be contested in a steel cage. I'm excited for that. And, you know, anytime you can get a steel cage on the card, I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, this one has kind of, again, just organically developed out of some of these, you know, different, just being on opposing sides, you know, of Derek and Sam. It's, you know, they always kind of have found themselves mixing it up over the last several months, and it's, you know, this kind of feud has emerged out of all this stuff, and you know, they've broken my barricades, and you know, had a really great singles match in at the Roxy in March, and you know, Sam was unhappy with the outcome, and challenged Derek Dillinger to a steel cage match. I think Mr. Holloway spoke a little too soon, because he has recently asked me what kind of weapons will be inside the cage, and I said, well, you made this challenge. The point is to keep weapons out of the cage.
Yeah.
So
you got to sneak them in there, bubs.
Yeah, so to be determined if maybe he spoke too soon as far as wanting a steel cage match. But there's going to be a steel cage match this Saturday nonetheless. And that steel cage fucking hurts. It sucks.
Yeah.
It is so heavy and thick. I don't think it does justice for, like, you know, like when you have like the chain link, you know, and there's some give to a chain link fence. Everybody's touched a chain link fence.
Oh yeah.
And it, like, those types of cages for wrestling, like, there's noise, there's breakage, there's like it, you know, like it creates that, like, ooh, like our steel cage is like rock solid steel.
Yeah.
Legit. And like, it doesn't make a peep when you hit it. And like, I don't think that like it gets the reaction that it should, because it is it's more brutal than anything. You know, it's more brutal than a chain link or something that's going to create that noise. I just think that's just what wrestling fans are accustomed to reacting to, is like a noise, like a ooh, you know. But like this is just like, you're gonna hit it fucking face first, and like it's not even gonna make a sound. And like, I just don't think it does itself justice for what type of pain that it is responsible for.
Yeah, because it's all like interlocking. Shouts to Pedro. He gets that thing up there in 9 minutes flat, but it's all like these interlocking pieces. So once they get it going and they start locking them in, it is like
solid.
Yeah, there's no give to it. It doesn't move. It doesn't sway at all. It sits on the apron of that ring and doesn't move. And yeah, I mean, you had Chuck and Dom hanging off that thing and it wasn't moving at all. You know what I mean? So you got two bigger guys, hanging all over, and it had no give whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. Also, it's not going to be like that. Like, Chuck, what a way to fucking really go out in Akron is with that fucking crazy fucking terror fucking cage match.
Yeah, a little less than the terror cage, for sure.
It's going to be way less than that. But fuck, that would make me want to retire too. So, Hopefully fans are coming expecting that sort of performance, because you are not getting the terror cage on Saturday. That was special circumstances. Do this before I leave the business sort of thing. So you're not getting the terror cage. You're getting a straight up cage. If we ever do the terror cage again, and it's to be determined, it's certainly possible, if that's something that A, people want to see, and B, they're two people that either A, want to do it, or B, want to do something that crazy before they retire from wrestling. We could certainly maybe work that in, but and that's maybe that'll, since we are at the Shrine in December, maybe we go back to the terror cage again. But that was I think a special circumstance. I don't think that we're gonna see anything quite like that this Saturday. It's going to be more in the respect of a traditional steel cage match.
Moving forward into the championship side of the things on this card, we do have a tag title match. We have the tag team champions, PME, taking on The Vision. There's Trey Lamar and Tyler Jordan with Nipsey Nash on their side. There's been some stuff brewing with these guys. This kind of feud has been going for kind of a while here. I'm trying to think of where the show. It was the first Roxy show, I think, back in January when they first kind of started all this business.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been somewhat of a quick rise since these three have teamed up. Obviously, they want those tag titles. It is unbeknownst to maybe a lot of listeners and a lot of fans, it is home field advantage pretty much for the Vision. Trey and Tyler, both from the Akron Canton area, so potentially could have the crowd on their side, depending on support, locally. So again, we always talk about that crowd is. It is a crazy momentum shifter. So you just never know what's going to happen with that X factor, the crowd. But they certainly want to win. I think they feel they deserve it. But PME has really established themselves as the team in Ohio. I think maybe even the Midwest. They are the team to beat. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. But again, who knows what's going to happen with those with that crowd and the momentum and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it does bear mentioning, PME will have Fonzie in their corner, and as we have learned, and as that man is capable of literally anything. He is a crazy man, so anything's possible when Fonzie's out there, as we've discussed. He just starts getting in the ring, he's just jumping on shit, he's all over the place.
Got right up after that fucking pussy ass fucking barbed wire bump over the weekend. That wasn't affecting Fonzie at all.
No, he took that like a champ. Keep it going forward in the card. Another championship match. We have the Intense champion, Wes Barkley, taking on Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham in the Challenger. This is one, Dan has been around for quite a while. He went away for a little bit there, had some stuff going, he did some car racing and whatnot, whatever he was doing out there, but he's back, and he's getting a title shot here against Wes.
Yeah, I mean, it's... I saw a lot of people saying they think this is Dan's night. Did you see that? There's a lot of chatter, on the AIW social media replies and comments of people thinking this Saturday is Dan's night.
Yeah.
Wes has been the champion for a while. Again, Dan just may be that weird, have that just weird support on Saturday. You just never know how it's going to go. I think Dan is, certainly determined to be a champion in AIW. I think that is why he came back to AIW. I don't think he came back, to not win. I think he came back to prove something to himself and a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I think we may see a different Dr. Dan on Saturday. Wes, has been on a roll as well, and we've seen that he's willing to do whatever it takes to remain champion. So I think both of them kind of have that experience of they have a lot of tricks in the bag, and I think that there's a lot of unique things that are potentially going to happen on Saturday. Just if you just think about the evolution of both of them as talents, and both are not shy about taking a shortcut. I think it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned, a lot of times you get hometown crowd for Wes in the Lakewood area, kind of Cleveland area. Akron is not a big, Barkley Nation, type crowd either, and you got Dan has been gaining momentum. So, yeah, the crowd, I think, could be a big factor in this one, personally. I agree
absolutely.
With that.
I mean, it can go either way.
Another championship match. We have the Absolute title. We have Absolute champion Eric Taylor taking on Matthew Justice, with Fonzie in his corner and the Duke in Eric Taylor's corner. So this is almost like a tag team match here, kind of almost, because both of these managers definitely willing to get in there and mix it up as well. So anything could happen in this one.
I think this is obviously the biggest test for Eric Taylor ever. If you weren't at the Roxy in March, Matthew Justice said, essentially over his dead body, is Eric Taylor going to represent this company at the 20th anniversary? Matthew Justice wants to walk into the Globe Iron waving the AIW flag for the brand as we kind of start this next chapter in this new era in AIW. He wants to be the guy leading the charge and, taking the torch again. And he certainly doesn't think it should be Eric Taylor. There's a lot of people that don't think it should be Eric Taylor. A lot of people in the locker room, take issue with Eric Taylor being champion. I think, Matthew Justice, this is very real for him. He very much wants to represent AIW as we head into the 20th year. Matthew Justice is, I think, he probably did his first AIW booking in 2006, maybe, if not late 2006, then certainly in 2007. And he's been in and out over the years, but he has a long history with this company for almost the duration of it. I don't think there's really anybody really around at this point from that first year that is available or people would really know. But Matt Justice certainly is, in that first incarnation of AIW. And I think, it means a lot to him if he can walk into the Globe Iron at the 20th anniversary as champion.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing, this match especially, it means a lot to Justice. To just say it for face value is one thing. You see Matthew Justice, you see that guy, he says for the brand, he's a very, intense, aggressive guy. He really means it. He is very serious about what you're saying about representing this company going into the 20th anniversary. That means a lot to him in his career and what he does in wrestling and his place in wrestling and that type of stuff. And AIW is something that he is very passionate about. And I think, like you said, I think Eric Taylor is going to have quite the mountain to climb. But I also think for Eric, this could be, a shining moment in, for the naysayers, for people who think that he shouldn't be where he is. He can take this moment and use it as a point and say, look what I do against every one of your favorite wrestlers. Every challenge that's put in front of him, he handles. And this could be a very much a shining moment in that line of events that he's looking to prove to, like you said, to the boys in the back, to the fans at home, to pretty much everyone, that he is the man. And this one, talk about, if we didn't have obviously the Gauntlet match, talk about a main event, this one is going to be a barn burner for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it is very real to Matthew Justice. I don't know how real it is to Eric Taylor. I'll put it that way. Right? Like, it is two different mindsets, mentalities, approaches to the wrestling business. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see it play out on Saturday. It is probably a lot more, Eric Taylor may have bit off more than he can chew. And even in a loss, maybe Eric Taylor can gain some respect, or, I don't know that anybody wants to see him win. I'll be shocked, if anybody wants to see him win. But at the Roxy, people wanted to see him win.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a very strange dynamic with the crowd. We always talk about it. What they can do and sway. And we saw the crowd get really firmly behind Eric Taylor at the Roxy, which was bizarre. I can't imagine it's going to be that way this time, but you never know.
Yeah, I will be very curious because, like you said, I mean, there's definitely they're naysayers for Eric Taylor, but you can't deny the chance and the crowd, the noise level, the things you hear. You can't deny the crowd. In these last couple of shows, I definitely think he has people. He's turning the tide on some people, and that's what I said. I think this moment, especially this match, especially could turn even more heads. If you think he's gaining momentum, prior to this, imagine what a win over Matthew Justice going into the 20th anniversary show, retaining that, going into that show as champion, could do a lot for Eric Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of different directions this could go, no doubt. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it is going to be absolutely electric as far as a title match is concerned.
Yeah. That's the card. We got 7 matches plus our gauntlet match, 30 Superstar Royale style match over the top rope. Last one in the ring gets their shot at whichever belts they choose, correct?
Well, no, because Wes has announced for it. It's just for the absolute title.
Okay, so I was going to say, I thought it was JT Lightning is for any belt you want. Gauntlet is for absolute. I couldn't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that was the change that we made for Jaylet this year. Is no champions could compete in it.
Okay.
Therefore, all their titles were available to be cashed in on.
Yeah.
That was kind of the way to reformat the Jaylet. Mm-hmm. But the Gauntlet is always just for the absolute title. So
absolute. Okay.
Wes has declared, regardless if he wins or loses on Saturday, he's declared that he's in. So it's not closed off to the other champions in the company. Just the absolute champion, whoever that is, after Eric Taylor and Matthew Justice, are ineligible.
I mean, that's a great point that you bring up too. Then, about Wes entering the Gauntlet. That's a guy who, he's seen other people, be double champs in this company, and I'm sure that's something that he would like to do. He's been tag champ, now intense champ. I'm sure he would like to add Triple Crown to that, to that resume. So that's somebody to watch out for sure in the Gauntlet, because you've seen a guy, Wes has gone up with almost everybody in this company and seemingly handled them. He's still holding that belt, so that's definitely one to look for in the Gauntlet.
Yeah, absolutely. I
know we had
again, Eric Taylor could lose and find his way into the Gauntlet. There's all kinds of different things that can go on.
Right. I mean, I know we have several names already announced. I know Fontaine. Did Fontaine? He announced at the Roxy, I think, was when he said
he's in. Yeah, he's been in every one.
Yeah, I didn't. That's what I said. I didn't want to speak out of turn, but I'm pretty sure he said it at the Roxy that day. So yeah, I mean, if you haven't gotten your tickets, we do our tickets for the Tadmore Shrine on Eventbrite.com. Use Eventbrite.com, just search Absolute Intense Wrestling. It'll pop right up there, and you can grab your tickets. We still have general admission tickets left, and we have 4th row seats available. So if you're looking to sit down, I know some people that's a big spot for them. They need to sit. I'm the same way. My legs are terrible. I'm not standing, but still some seats left. Get to Eventbrite.com and get those tickets. Anything else you want to get to before we get out of here?
No, we forgot to open it up for questions, but that's okay. I answered. I did so much. We did a AMA and a solo podcast last week.
I kind of didn't even think there'd be any. That's kind of why I didn't even ask or open it up, because you've just been doing so much. We did the AMA, and then it was funny. I listened to that solo podcast you did. It was a really great listen for anyone who's not in our Patreon. Definitely download the Patreon and get on there. I know Thorne said he intended to talk for 5-10 minutes, and it ended up being about a 45-minute podcast. So if you enjoy this podcast and kind of us talking the inner workings of wrestling, definitely get on the Patreon and check out the solo podcast that Thorne put out, because there's definitely a lot of insight to that, especially in the going forward of the AIW. It was like pretty much like a State of the Union on the AIW for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I really get into everything. Don't really hold anything back as far as what was wanting me to potentially close it up at the 20th anniversary show. What changed my mind, goals, all kinds of different things. Successes, failures, all sorts of stuff. So it's, I just kind of turned I turned the microphone on and I just pressed record. I really meant to talk, like a quick 5-minute thing, and it ended up going about 40 minutes. A lot of people said that they found it very insightful. So, check that out on Patreon if you can. Again, we really want to sell out the debut at the Globe Iron for the 20th anniversary show. I'm working on a lot of interesting things. Got some ghosts of AIW past, so to speak, coming in for that one. So, it's going to be, a little bit of modern AIW, a couple of people from old AIW, try to make it a fun night altogether. It's going to be, not necessarily focused on maintaining canon, so to speak, current AIW. Just we're trying to put together kind of a mishmash of everything going on. Maybe redo some very famous matches from AIW's past, stuff like that. Kind of like not like a one night stand, but kind of, in that vein. I realize, there's a lot of people that people would want to see that, contractually are not going to be able to come, right, or participate. So instead, we decided we were going to try to do some, maybe some redos of some fun matches that have happened in AIW in the past. The blueprint right now is a lot of people are excited about it. It's a lot of fun. We want to really make a good impression here at the Globe Iron. I went and toured it the other day. It's going to be a very beautiful facility. It's not going to be some rundown dump of a building. It's going to be, everything in there is new. Everything is nice. They've put a ton of money into this facility. Probably too nice for independent wrestling, but it is going to be, even wrestling aside, the Globe Iron is going to be the venue in the Cleveland area for music, for everything. It is, it's awesome. It's awesome space. Pedro went with me. He says, I don't know what this meant, but he's like, oh, this reminds me of the Progress building, the old Progress building. I never watched Progress really, so that didn't click with me, but he was like gushing over the building, and Pedro hates all of these nice buildings. Pedro just wants us to run like a gym all the time. He wants it to feel like 2005 indie wrestling, right? Which I understand.
Yeah, right.
So he's very critical when we go to these real kind of music type concert venues, and he was just really, really impressed with everything that they're doing in there, and how nice it is. So let's sell it out. We got about 20 of those deck seats available. The premium VIP with the private bar and everything, and it's pretty cool. It's like it's elevated, so you're gonna overlook kind of the whole room. Everything is like a open floor space as far as the venue goes, but the deck is like this upstairs elevated kind of like balcony type of seating up there, to where you'll be able to look over the whole room. And they'll have a private bar back there, and waitresses and things like that. So I mean, it's going to be. I really think it's going to be a very cool space. But we need everybody to come out and show out for that. It's the AW 20th anniversary. It's a huge accomplishment, regardless of if you've liked all 20 years or hated all 20 years, or you're somewhere in the middle. The fact that we've made it 20 years, I think, is an accomplishment that should be celebrated. I think, all of, Northeast Ohio wrestling fans need to come out if they can get in and, have a good time, because it is accomplishment. I doubt that you're going to see another independent company go on a run like this of 20 plus years, and, maintain any sort of level of consistency like we have. I really hope that we can get a big crowd out there on May 16th in the Flats, because it's a nice building. There's a lot of potential there for growth for AIW, and but we gotta show them what we can do.
Hell yeah. Well, you heard the man. Get your tickets for the Globe Iron debut, our 20th anniversary show. That is May 16th. And then if you haven't got your tickets for this Saturday, for Saturday, the 26th of April, we are doing Gauntlet for the Gold 19, I believe. Is this Gauntlet 19?
Oh, I think it is.
I think it's 19.
I think it is. I mean, the numbers got all kind of weird with COVID.
Yeah.
Like everything got kind of messed
Hell
up.
on Earth's one higher, and yeah.
Hell on Earth is one higher than everything. So yeah, I think it's 18. I think it's Gauntlet 18.
Did I go one too high? Yeah. Either way, Gauntlet for the Gold. Come on out Saturday, April 26th at the Tadmore Shrine. Free parking, like we said. Tickets on Eventbrite.com. Get out there early. We'll be hanging out, tailgating. Maybe somebody will bring a grill. Who knows? I'll be out there hanging out. So come see us this Saturday at the Tadmore Shrine, like we said, for our Gauntlet for the Gold.
No official after party at this time, because it's potential. We just never know how long the Gauntlet's going to go.
Yeah.
So it's I don't want to say too much. So it just come Saturday.
That's fair enough. All right. Well, for myself, for John Thorne, for everybody at AIW, we'll see you this Saturday at Gauntlet for the Gold. Thanks.